There was a king who requested his ministers for a piece of advice that would stand him good in all circumstances. They came up with a message that they wrote on a paper, placed it in a casket, and offered it to him. He read it. The message was, there is a thing called AQ, Adversity Quotient, your ability to handle adversity well. Remember, this world is always changing. There is the winter that is followed by the summer, the day which is followed by the night. Gachatiti Jagat, that which is always moving is the world. Sansaratiti Sansaraha, which always slides, is the sansar. In this sansar, you will get favorable and unfavorable situations. Don't take either of them too seriously. There was a king who requested his ministers for a piece of advice that would stand him good in all circumstances. They came up with a message that they wrote on a paper, placed it in a casket, and offered it to him. He read it. The message was, even this shall pass away. At that time, the king was in the pinnacle of his glory. Everything was favorable. It made him think, is this comfort temporary? 1 month went by and the neighboring kingdom attacked him. This king was taken by surprise. His army was scattered and he found himself on the run with the enemy in hot pursuit. He reached a cliff's edge and thought he was done for. When he remembered the casket, opened the message, and reminded himself, even this shall pass away. That gave him hope. He hid by the cliff's side and allowed the army to go by. He then went back, gathered his forces, and successfully defended his kingdom. He was now on his throne again, but remembering that it was a temporary situation. When we remember the fleeting nature of the world, we neither take our successes too seriously nor our defeats. The second point to increase your AQ is to learn optimism. One husband and wife recently became proud parents of a little infant child. The child was a couple of weeks old. The father created an alarming sound and the child did not respond. The father was a hardcore pessimist and jumped to the worst conclusions. He called the child's mother and said, "Look, it seems like our child is deaf." She said, "Why do you always think the worst? Let's take a look at the pediatric book." She looked at the book and said, "Here it says, the system takes time to evolve. If the child doesn't respond immediately, it may take a little time. Be patient." The father said the book did not cover the third possibility, that the child could be deaf. The wife said, "You will never improve your attitude. Let's consult the pediatrist." Now it was the weekend and the doctor was not reachable. The husband was sweating while the wife was calm and relaxed. On Monday, she managed to connect with the pediatrist's office, but they got an appointment for the following week. Through the 7 days, the husband's stress levels were uncontrollable, while the wife had faith things will turn out okay. Finally, when they met the doctor, he said, "There is nothing to worry. This child is quite normal. Just wait another 2 weeks." Finally, when the child started responding to signals, the husband's apprehensions were put at rest. What was the difference between the husband and the wife? One had a pessimistic attitude where he was always fearing the worst, and the wife had an optimistic attitude, hope for the best. Now, there are some unrealistic optimists who are not willing to consider that there is a problem. Such people are foolhardy. Sometimes they are underprepared when difficulties arise, or they are taken by surprise and get broken. A realist is one who admits the problem. I may be overweight, but never mind. If I follow the rules and try hard enough, I can get rid of my obesity. So, a pessimist will say, I am done for and will remain obese all my life. An unrealist optimist will say, I don't have an obesity problem. And a realist optimist will say, I do have a problem, but with effort and God's grace, it can be solved. Now, the third piece of wisdom to increase your AQ is to decouple your attitudes from the external circumstances. There was a hymn writer in the 19th century, born around 1850 in the United States, called Fanny Crosby. When she was just 6 weeks old, the doctor gave hot fomentation around the eyes and she became blind forever. Now imagine a world where she can't see her parents, she can't see her home, everything is dark. And yet, the happy thoughts she chose to harbor. The first poem she wrote was at the age of 8, and she stated there, "Oh, what a happy child I am, although I cannot see. I am resolved in this world, contented I shall be. For so many graces I have that others don't. So weep or cry because I am blind, but I can't and I won't." What an inspirational poem from a blind 8-year-old. She went on as she grew up to write 8,000 hymns. The publishers were at their wits' end. Who will believe one person wrote so many? They were published under many pseudonyms. That Fanny Crosby said, "It was good that God made me blind so that I remain undistracted and focused on His glory. And the first personality I shall see in the afterlife will be Him." So remember, difficult circumstances are a part of the world. And yet, the saints, despite the circumstances, were full of inspiration, optimism, and positivity. Surdas was blind from birth. Kabir Das was of unknown parentage. Tulsidas had people trying to murder him. In the material side, Beethoven was literally deaf at the time he composed his major works. Thomas Edison was deaf for a few years in his childhood. Stephen Hawking was literally crippled all his life, and this did not deter them for using whatever abilities they had in the best manner possible. If you wish to insulate yourself from adversity and increase your AQ, remember the gap between circumstances and your thoughts. The circumstances may not be in your control, but the thoughts are. The key to leading a fulfilling and successful life is to grab hold of your mind and create the best thoughts. You will then be filled by gratitude, and rather than having a whining personality, will have a winning personality.